Can you imagine chasing after something that's worthless and it literally costing you your life, other people's victory, and your family dying? That's crazy. Now, hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Kyla, and today I'm super excited to be back with another video. This is actually going to be a 2 or 3 part series, and we're going to be talking about disobedience, y'all. We're gonna get into the nitty gritty, okay? We're gonna be talking about 3 main stories that God has uncovered to me today. We're gonna be in Joshua chapter 6 and 7, and we're gonna be talking about this man named Achan. And if y'all have not heard this story about Achan and his sin and his disobedience, we're gonna talk about it today. But this is gonna be a really good series, so make sure you hit the subscribe button below so you don't miss when I post a new video. If you're returning, welcome back. I'm always super excited to have you. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into today's video. All right, y'all, so I'm gonna start off today's video with a little story time real quick, okay? So in middle school, I was not the best kid, okay? I had a real bad mouth. I used to talk crazy, skip class, just start all types of trouble for no reason. I was a very angry child, whatever. Besides the point, I was always getting in trouble. And so this one particular time, I just decided that I wanted to skip class. And so I skipped class or whatever. I had just got off of punishment. My parents had put me on punishment for something I did. I don't even know. But I had just came off like a week-long punishment. And so at this point, I had skipped all my classes. And it's like, it's the end of the day. I got to get back to the school so I can catch the bus and, you know, go home like nothing ever happened. So I get on the bus. All is well. Everything's cool. I get home. I walk in the door. Say what's up to my parents, cool, go in my room, I'm chilling. I had just got off my last punishment again, and I'm just going about my day. So it's probably about like 3 o'clock by the time I get home. And at 9 o'clock or whatever, I come downstairs, and my dad was like, so how was school today? And I'm like, school was cool, you know, school was cool. And he was like, oh, okay. So then I walk in the kitchen, and he was just like, so your school called me today? And I was like, busted, right? Because all day, because he didn't say anything, I thought that I got away with it, right? I thought that I got away with skipping school, and because nobody said anything, and it was like hours that I had already seen my parents and everything. And when he said that, I was like, oh man, I got caught. He was like, yeah, the school called me today and told me that you were absent and da-da-da-da. And so of course I wound up getting back on punishment, and I was real irritated because I was like, dang it, I thought I got away with it, right? Now that's like a really like childish story, but I wanted to start off with that story because today we're going to be talking about disobedience and the consequences of disobedience, and even covering the question like, do we actually really get away with anything? Often we think that we know that God is of love and God is forgiving and God is all of those things, but we also serve a God who disciplines who he loves, right? He disciplines those who he loves, and that discipline often involves, you know, loving us and forgiving us, but not excusing us from the consequences of when we are disobedient. Even in the little things that we got away with, God is always still going to allow the consequences to happen. So today we're going to be in Joshua 6 and 7, sort of, kind of. And let me just give you a little bit of background of what's happening. At this point, Moses has died. Joshua has taken over, and he is leading the Israelites to the promised land. And that includes conquering all of these different territories and destroying and ridding these towns so that they can be a part basically of the inheritance, right? And so in Joshua 6, during this time where Joshua is leading the Israelites, he gives the Israelites very specific instructions. And one of the instructions is to, in verse 18, it says, do not take any of the things set apart for destruction, or you yourselves will be completely destroyed, and you will bring trouble on the camp of Israel. Everything made from silver, gold, bronze, or iron is sacred to the Lord and must be brought into his treasury. Right? So we hear God say, go in, destroy everything in the land of Jericho, basically destroy everything, and don't keep anything for yourselves. Very simple instructions, right? But y'all know it's always one. It's always one, right? It's always one person. So they go in, they destroy, Jericho falls, they conquer the land. Now we're in chapter 7, and we find out about a man named Achan. Now, I don't even know if it's Achan or Achan, but we're going to call him Achan today, okay? Now, Achan decided, you know what, I'm just going to take a little something. Ain't nobody going to notice, you know, they got all this silver, all this gold, all this iron. I'm just going to grab a little bit for myself, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to tuck it away, and we're going to be all right. But let me tell you, God was not having it. It says in chapter 7, verse 1, it says, a man named Achan had stolen some of these dedicated things, so the Lord was very angry with the Israelites. Now, I want to point out something. It says that he was not only angry with Achan, but he was angry with the Israelites, right? One of the first things that I want to point out is that when we are disobedient, it has consequences, not just for us, but for people that are attached to us. Now, stay with me. So mind you, up until this time, God was with Joshua and the Israelites, and he helped them to defeat their enemies. He helped them to overtake and conquer all of these lands. Now they're about to come up against the people in the land of Ai. And so it should have been an easy victory, right? Like, they sent some spies up. It says they sent some spies out to spy out the town of Ai. And when they returned, they were like, you know what? It's not even that many of them. We don't need that many of our warriors to go up there to defeat them. Like, this is going to be a quick, smooth battle. Well, what happens is, they send up, just a few of their strongest men, I think they said about 3,000 warriors they sent up. And in verse 4, it says, so approximately 3,000 warriors were sent, but they were soundly defeated. The men of Ai chased the Israelites down from the town gate as far as the quarries, and they killed about 36 who were retreating down the slope. The Israelites were paralyzed with fear at this turn of events, and their courage melted away. Now listen, they had defeated all of these people before. They didn't have no problems because everybody was following the instructions of the Lord. But this one dude, Achan, this one dude. At this point, nobody knows that Achan had stolen these things. And so they're just like, dang, like, this is a battle we should have won. So Joshua was tearing his clothes in distress. And he's like, God, why have you forsaken us? He's like, it says in verse 6 that him and the elders of Israel, they tore their clothing in dismay. They threw dust on their heads and bowed face down to the ground before the ark of the Lord until evening. And then it says, then Joshua cried out, O sovereign Lord, why did you bring us across the Jordan River if you were going to let the Amorites kill us? And he's going on and on and on and on. And in verse 10 it says, but the Lord said to Joshua, get up. Why are you lying on your face like this? Israel has sinned and broken my covenant. They have stolen some of the things that I have commanded be set apart for me. And they have not only stolen it, but have lied about it. So he's going to steal the stuff and then he's going to lie. How you going to lie to God? We got to ask ourselves that question. Sometimes we just think we can just go tell a lie like God don't already know. He know. He be knowing everything. But anyway. So it says they have not only stolen them, but have lied about it and hidden it among their own belongings. That is why the Israelites are running from their enemies in defeat. Y'all, let's just pause for a second, okay? So this one man, Achan, right? Just one man. He was disobedient in the Lord's instructions. He took something and he lied about it and hid it amongst himself, right? Amongst the Israelites. And because of that, and because of his disobedience, they lost a battle that they should have won. They should have been able to defeat the town of Ai, but because of his disobedience, they lost. They lost a battle and it melted their courage away, right? So now the next time they were going to face a battle, they were going to be afraid when previously they had all of this victory. And so this is something that I really wanted to point out because it's like, how many times should we have the victory over something, but because of our disobedience, we actually fell victim to it, right? We should have had the victory over a lot of things in our life, but because of our disobedience, we've now been defeated by that thing that we should have been a victor over. And we do the same thing, right? Like, we're disobedient and then we try to hide it from God. And then we're like, oh yeah, I think I got away with it. But in this case, God exposed exactly what was going on to Joshua. And he's like, oh nah, like, we about to go find out what's up. Because you not only, you only set yourself up, but you set all of us up too. Like, we lost some men because you wanted to be selfish and be disobedient, right? So God is reminding us that when we are disobedient, again, it does not just affect only us, but everybody around us, whether we can see it or not. If God had not exposed to Joshua that it was, the sin of one man that had caused their defeat, then they would have still been trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Right? They would have been like, I don't understand. Like, you were just with us for the victory and now we're losing battles that we should have won. What are you losing in your life that you should have already had the victory over? And ask God to show you the root of that thing. And you might be surprised. It might have been somewhere along the line that you were disobedient. Who knows? So back to the text. We're still in Joshua 7, verse 13 now. It says, get up, command the people to purify themselves in preparation for tomorrow. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Hidden among you, O Israel, are things set apart for the Lord. You will never defeat your enemies until you remove these things from among you. Did y'all hear that? God told Joshua and the Israelites, you will never defeat your enemies until you remove these things from among you. What have we hidden among us? What sins have we tried to hide? What disobedience have we tried to hide that is causing our enemies to defeat us when we should have been conquering them? What is it? Where along the line, right? Some of us are taking some serious losses. And like I said, could the root of that be disobedience somewhere along the line? All right, so now back in the day, they was real gangster about disobedience, okay? Like, God, you were dead, okay? You sinned, you were disobedient, you were dead, okay? So thankfully, God has given us grace, Lord, that we are not dying for disobedience and sin. It does not mean the consequences are not coming. We're going to talk about that in the next part of the series. But basically, what happens to Achan is that they bring everybody out. Again, they present them before the Lord, and they start to go down person by person, line by line, and family by family, and they get basically to Achan and his family. And Joshua asked him, like, don't lie, okay? Now, don't lie. Tell us the truth. What did you do? And basically, Achan confessed that he took the beautiful robe. He says that in verse 20, he said, it is true. I have sinned against the Lord, the God of Israel. Among the plunder, I saw a beautiful robe for Babylon, 200 silver coins, and a bar of gold weighing more than a pound. Now, mind you, he saw. We often talk about the lust of the eyes, right? Sometimes we see something and it causes us to be disobedient. It causes us to reason and think, you know what? Like, nobody will know if I just do this. It's going to be fine. Like, there's going to be no consequences. So we start to lose sight of God and start focusing on what's desiring to the eye. He ain't no different than Eve eating that apple, okay? He saw something beautiful and he went after it, and it cost him so much more than the value of what he was running after. Y'all, whew, I don't know about y'all, that just hit my spirit, right? What he was chasing ended up costing him more than what he was chasing was even valued at. That's so good to me. Ooh, that's so good, y'all. We be running after stuff that don't even compare to what God has for us. We be running after worthless things. That robe, that beautiful robe, the silver coins, none of that meant anything compared to mind you, they were pursuing the promised land at this point. Okay, they all they had to do was continue to follow and be obedient to God, and God was about to give them the whole promised land. But he got so greedy, he allowed the lust of his eyes to distract him. And it cost him everything. It literally cost him everything. We find out that, and now we're in verse 25. I'm skipping down. It says, then Joshua said to Achan, after he had confessed that he had stolen the things, they went back and they discovered what he had stolen. And then it says, why have you brought trouble on us? The Lord will now bring trouble on you. Right? It says, and all the Israelites stoned Achan and his family, and they burned their bodies. Can you imagine chasing after something that's worthless and it literally costing you your life, other people's victory, and your family dying? That's crazy. Now, mind you, this in the Old Testament, but like I said, a lot of the consequences look different now, but there are still consequences. This man lost his life, his family's life, everything. He cost literally his disobedience led to death. Okay, it led to death. They were stoned to death. And then it says, so the Lord was no longer angry. When I read this, I was like, dang, God, like he had to die for that. But listen, like, being obedient in the details matter. They follow all the other instructions that the Lord had given them. But because that one man, he was not obedient in the details, it cost him his life. And so the whole reason why God wants me to talk about this is because a lot of us are being, we're glossing over things and we're being disobedient in areas, and then we're seeing losses. We're seeing like the fruit of our disobedience in different areas of our lives, and we're not even able to trace why it's happening. And could it be because we are being disobedient? And this word ain't just for y'all. This word cutting me up as well. So like, this ain't no condemnation or nothing like that. I'm literally just bringing you this story and encouraging us to be obedient in the details because it matters. One of my favorite podcast episodes is from the Blessed and Bossed Up podcast, and it's called Sincerity is No Substitute for disobedience. I think that's what it's called. I'll leave the link in the description to the episode below. But she talks about like you have to follow God's instructions to the T. Taking shortcuts and rerouting, and then when you get caught trying to explain yourself to God, he's like, I don't care about all of that. You disobeyed me, and so now you got to deal with the consequences. Doesn't mean he wasn't forgiven, but he still had to pay the consequences for his disobedience. So at this point, chapter 8, once everything was handled with Achan, the Israelites went back to go attack the town of Ai, and they were victorious in defeating them, right? So once they had did exactly what the Lord said to do, which was to remove all of the things that were set apart for the Lord, all the things that Achan stole, they were able to defeat their enemies, right? They were finally able to get the victory over something that they should have already had the victory over anyway. So takeaways, y'all. One, I really encourage you to go read this again. We were in Joshua. We were kind of between Joshua 6 and 7. I really encourage you to go read this story because it's actually just a really good lesson about how we don't really get away with anything. There's always consequences. And like I say, even if the consequences aren't directly on us, in this case it was, so many other people are affected by our disobedience, and we need to really take it seriously. Like when God is giving us instructions, we need to follow them entirely and stop, getting distracted by the lust of the eyes. And so yeah, that's all I really wanted to say, you guys. I'm really excited to dive into this series because there are some really good stories about disobedience in the Bible. And listen, we are not in it. God is not playing, okay? God is not playing out here in these streets in these times. And obedience matters. Obedience matters. So I will see you all in the next video. If you have questions, let me know. I'll leave the link to the study Bible that I use. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next video.